On their honeymoon, the new husband told his bride, "I have a confession to make that I should have made before, but I was concerned that it might affect our relationship." "What is it?" his new bride asked lovingly. "I'm a golf fanatic," he said. "I think about golf constantly. I'll be out on the golf course every weekend, every holiday, and every chance I get. If it comes to a choice between your wishes and golf, golf will always win." His new bride pondered this for a moment and said, "I thank you for your honesty. Now, in the same spirit of honesty, I should tell you that I've concealed something about my own past that you should know about. The truth is, I'm a hooker." "No problem," said her husband. "Just widen your stance a little and overlap your grip, and that should clear it right up." Grandma Betty got an Alexa for her birthday. Day 1. "Alexa, make me a cup of coffee." Alexa, "I'm sorry, I can't do that." Betty, "Useless. Even my cat brings me more joy." Day 2. "Alexa, play Elvis." Alexa plays techno remix of Hound Dog. Betty threw her slipper at it. "In my day, if something disrespected Elvis, we unplugged it." Day 3. She started yelling at it like it was a misbehaving grandchild. "Don't sass me, Alexa. I survived dial-up internet. I will unplug your soul." Shortly after takeoff, the captain of a British Airways flight came on the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Flight 293 from London to New York. Weather is great and we should have a smooth flight." "Oh my God." Complete silence. A few moments later, he returned. "Sorry to scare you. A flight attendant just spilled coffee all over me. You should see the front of my pants." From the back of the plane, an Irish passenger shouted, "For the love of Jesus, you should see the back of mine." A young woman was having a physical examination and was embarrassed because of a weight problem. As she removed her last bit of clothing, she blushed. "I'm so ashamed, doctor," she said. "I guess I let myself go." The physician was checking her eyes and ears. "Don't feel ashamed, miss. You don't look that bad." "Do you really think so, doctor?" she asked. The doctor held a tongue depressor in front of her face and said, "Of course. Now just open your mouth and say moo." Little Susie comes home crying to her mom. "Mom, what happened?" Little Susie, "Today I had an argument with little Johnny and he pulled down his pants and pointed at his wee-wee and said, 'I'm a boy, so I have this. You're a girl, so you don't have this.'" Mom, "Don't worry, darling. When you grow up, if you're a good girl, you can also have one." Susie, "What if I'm a bad girl?" Mom, "Then you will have many." The banker saw his old friend Harry, an 80-year-old rancher, in town one day. Harry had lost his wife a year or so before, and rumor had it that he was marrying again. Being a good friend, the banker asked Harry if the rumor was true. Harry assured him that it was. The banker then asked Harry the age of his new bride-to-be. Harry proudly said, "She'll be 21 in this December." Now the banker, being the wise man that he was, could see that the appetite of a young woman could not be satisfied by an 80-year-old man. Wanting his old friend's later years to be happy ones, the banker tactfully suggested that Harry should consider getting a hired hand to help him out on the ranch, knowing nature would take its own course. Harry thought this was a good idea and said he would look for one that afternoon. About 4 months later, the banker ran into Harry in town again. "How's the new wife?" asked the banker. Harry proudly said, "Oh, she's pregnant." The banker, happy that his sage advice had worked out, continued, "And how's the hired hand?" Without hesitating, Harry said, "She's pregnant too." The guys were all out at deer camp sharing cabins. There was just one problem. No one wanted to room with Carl. Why? Because Carl didn't just snore. He shook the drywall. To be fair, they decided to take turns bunking with him. First night, Steve draws the short straw. Next morning, He stumbles into breakfast with hair like a haystack and eyes like two road flares. "Dude, what happened to you?" I didn't sleep a wink. Carl sounded like a chainsaw fighting a blender. I just sat there and watched him all night. Second night, Mike's turn. He shows up the next morning looking like he'd been hit by a truck. "Man, you okay?" Carl's snoring rattled my fillings. I gave up and stared at the ceiling till sunrise. Third night, Big Frank steps up, ex-linebacker. Doesn't scare easy. They figure he can handle it. The next morning, Frank strolls in, refreshed, hair combed, sipping coffee like he's on vacation. Everyone's jaws drop. "Wait, you look great. What happened?" Frank grins. "Well, when we got into the room, I tucked Carl in, fluffed his pillow, and gave him a little kiss on the forehead. He stayed up all night watching me, slept like a baby." Today I sat down to rest for 5 minutes. I barely sat down when the phone rings. "Mom, where are you?" "I'm right here sitting." "Good, because Grandma says you fell." "I didn't fall. I sat." "Well, Grandma says you fell like 2 minutes ago." "Yeah, well, Grandma was looking through closed blinds." While I'm trying to explain that I sat and didn't fall, the dog freaks out thinking I'm crying, jumps in my lap, spills my coffee on my pajamas, and my husband runs in yelling, "Who fell?" In the end, everyone was comforting me, and all I wanted was to sit for 5 minutes. Getting older isn't for the weak, and apparently not for sitting either. The phone rang. The lady of the house answered. "Yes?" "Mrs. Ward, please." "Speaking." "Mrs. Ward, this is Dr. Jones at the medical testing laboratory. When your doctor sent your husband's samples to the lab, the samples from another Mr. Ward were sent as well, and we are now uncertain which one is your husband's. Frankly, it is either bad or terrible." "What do you mean?" Mrs. Ward asked. "Well, one Mr. Ward has tested positive for Alzheimer's and the other for AIDS. We can't tell which your husband's is." "That's terrible. Can we do the test over?" questioned Mrs. Ward. "Normally, yes, but Medicare won't pay for these expensive tests more than once." "Well, what am I supposed to do now?" "The people at Medicare recommend that you drop your husband off in the middle of town. If he finds his way home, don't sleep with him." Billy Bob was walking down the street and up pulls Bubba in a brand new pickup. Billy Bob asks Bubba where he got the new truck. "Well, I was at the dance on Saturday night, and this really good-looking girl starting tell me about her brand new pickup and asked me if I wanted to go for a ride in it. I told her I would. We went out of town on the highway, and then she pulled off on a dirt road, and then she pulled off into the woods. She got out of the truck and took off all her clothes and said, 'Bubba, you can have anything you want.' Billy Bob said, 'That was really smart of you, Bubba, because those clothes never would have fit you.'" Why little Johnny was late to school. Again. "Late again, Johnny," Miss Patterson sighed, arms folded. Johnny just grinned. "Ain't my fault this time, ma'am. You gotta blame my daddy. He sleeps in the nude." Miss Patterson, who had taught for decades and heard every excuse under the sun, raised an eyebrow. Still, curiosity won. "All right, Johnny. Explain." "Well, ma'am," Johnny began, "we got a sly old fox out by our chicken coop. Nasty critter's been stealing hens all week. Last night, Daddy heard something out there and jumped out of bed grabbing his shotgun. Now, Daddy don't sleep in nothing, not a stitch. He told us kids to stay put and army crawled his way to the coop like some kind of ninja." Johnny paused for dramatic effect. He aimed his shotgun through the coop window, waiting real quiet. Then Rip, that's our hound, snuck up behind him. And right as Daddy was getting ready to fire, Johnny leaned in close, eyes wide. Rip stuck his cold nose right where no dog should ever be sticking it. Miss Patterson gasped. Daddy screamed like a banshee, fired both barrels straight into the air, and scared every hen we got clean out of their feathers. So, yeah, Johnny finished proudly, we've been chasing down bald chickens since 3 a.m. Manny is almost 29 years old. His friends have already gotten married, but Manny still just dates and dates. Finally, a friend asks him, "What's the matter? Are you looking for the perfect woman? Are you that particular? Can't you find anyone who suits you?" "No," Manny replies. "I meet many nice girls, but as soon as I bring them home to meet my parents, my mother doesn't like them, so I keep on looking." "Listen," his friend suggests. "Why don't you find a girl who's just like your dear old mother?" Many weeks go by, and again Manny and his friend get together. "So, Manny, did you find that perfect girl yet? One that's just like your mother?" Manny shrugs his shoulders. "Yes, I found one just like Mom, and my mother loved her, and they became fast friends." "So should I congratulate you? Are you and this girl engaged yet?" "I'm afraid not. My father can't stand her." A blonde woman was driving along the highway about 2 hours outside San Diego when she saw a man waving her down. His truck was parked on the shoulder, clearly broken down. As she rolled down her window, the man approached and asked, "Are you headed to San Diego?" "Sure am," she replied. "Great. I don't need a ride for myself. I'll be stuck here fixing my truck for hours. But I've got 2 chimpanzees in the back, and they need to get to the San Diego Zoo. They're already stressed, and I don't want to keep them waiting. Could you take them for me? I'll pay you $200 for the trouble." The blonde thought for a moment and said, "Sure, I'd be happy to help." The man carefully loaded the chimpanzees into the back seat of her car, strapped them in with seat belts, and handed her the cash. Off she went, heading toward the zoo. About 5 hours later, the man's truck was finally fixed, and he was driving through downtown San Diego when he spotted a scene that made his jaw drop. There was the blonde walking down the street hand in hand with the 2 chimps. A huge crowd had gathered, laughing and snapping photos. He slammed on the brakes, jumped out of his truck, and ran over to her. "What are you doing?" he yelled. "I gave you $200 to take those chimpanzees to the zoo." "I did," she said, smiling. "But we had money left over, so now we're going to SeaWorld." 3 elderly brothers, 96, 94, and 92, still live together in the old family house. One evening, the 96-year-old runs a bath. He puts 1 foot in and freezes. "Hey!" he shouts down the stairs. "Was I getting in or out of the tub?" The 94-year-old calls back, "No idea. I'll come check." Halfway up the stairs, he stops and yells, "Wait! Was I going up or coming down?" The youngest, 92, is sitting in the kitchen, sipping coffee and shaking his head. "Man, I hope I never get that forgetful," he mutters. He knocks on the table for good luck. Then he stands up, walks to the door, and says, "I'll be right there as soon as I see who's knocking." A young woman sent this message to tech support clearly as a joke, but the reply she got was pure gold. Her message: "Dear tech support, last year I upgraded from Boyfriend 5.0 to Husband 1.0 and noticed a serious slowdown. The flower and jewelry apps that worked perfectly under Boyfriend 5.0 are almost non-functional now. Husband 1.0 also uninstalled some great programs like Romance 9.5 and Personal Attention 6.5, replacing them with odd apps like NBA 5.0, NFL 3.0, and Golf Clubs 4.1. Conversation 8.0 no longer runs, and House Cleaning 2.6 just crashes the system. I even tried running Nagging 5.3 to fix things, but no luck. What do I do? Signed, Desperate. The reply, weeks later. Dear Desperate, remember, Boyfriend 5.0 is an entertainment package, while Husband 1.0 is an operating system. Try entering the command I thought you loved me HTML and download Tears 6.2. Don't forget to install the Guilt 3.0 update. If it works correctly, Husband 1.0 should automatically launch Jewelry 2.0 and Flowers 3.5. Warning: overusing Tears 6.2 may cause Husband from 1.0 to default to Grumpy Silence 2.5, Happy Hour 7.0, or Beer 6.1. Beer 6.1 is especially bad. It downloads snoring loudly beta in the background. Whatever you do, do not install Mother-in-Law 1.0. It runs a virus that will take over all your system resources. Also, don't try reinstalling Boyfriend 5.0. These are unsupported applications and will crash Husband 1.0. In summary, Husband 1.0 is a solid program but has limited memory and learns new apps slowly. Consider purchasing additional software to boost performance. We recommend Cooking 3.0. Good luck. My husband and I pulled up to the McDonald's drive-thru window. I handed the cashier a $5 bill. Our total was $4.25, so I also gave her a quarter. She said, "You gave me too much money." I replied, "Yes, but that way you can just give me $1 back." She sighed, went to get the manager, who asked me to repeat my request. I did, and he gave me back the 25 cents, saying, "Sorry, we don't do that kind of thing." Then the cashier handed me 75 cents in change. Don't confuse McDonald's employees, folks. We had to get our garage door fixed. The repairman told us the problem was the motor wasn't big enough. I said, "We have the biggest one, a 1/2 horsepower." He shook his head. "No, you need a 1/4 horsepower." I said, "1/2 is bigger than a 1/4. He replied, "No, 4 is bigger than 2. Yeah, we didn't call him again. Living in a semi-rural area, we recently got a new neighbor who called the city council to remove the deer crossing sign. Reason? Too many deer are getting hit by cars. It's not a good crossing spot anymore. You can't fix stupid. My daughter went to a Mexican fast food place and ordered a taco with minimal lettuce. The worker said, "Sorry, we only have iceberg lettuce." At the airport, an employee asked me, "Has anyone put anything in your baggage without your knowledge?" I said, "If it was without my knowledge, how would I know?" He just smiled and said, "That's why we ask." I was crossing the street with a coworker who asked what the beeping pedestrian signal meant. I said, "It helps blind people know when it's safe to cross." She gasped, "What are blind people doing driving?" She's a government employee. When my wife and I picked up our car from the dealership, they said the keys were locked inside. We watched a mechanic trying to unlock the driver's door. I tried the passenger door, and it was already unlocked. I said, "It's open." He said, "I know, I already did that side." Stay alert, friends. They walk among us and breed. For years, Mr. Harold Thompson had trouble hearing, enough that his grandkids often joked he was only half in the conversation. Truth be told, Harold didn't mind missing a few details here and there, but eventually he decided it was time to do something about it. He visited a specialist, got fitted with some top-of-the-line hearing aids, and like magic, the world came back to life. Birds chirped, music was crisp, and for the first time in years he could understand every word people were saying without leaning in or nodding politely. A month later, he returned for a checkup. "Well, Mr. Thompson," the doctor smiled, looking over the charts, "your hearing is now excellent. I bet your family is thrilled." Harold chuckled, leaned forward, and whispered, "Oh, I haven't told them yet." The doctor raised an eyebrow. "I just sit quietly in the corner and listen," Harold said, eyes twinkling. "You wouldn't believe what people say when they think you can't hear a thing." He paused, then added with a grin, Let's just say I've updated my will 5 times already. A cheerful woman walked into the pharmacy with confidence and asked the clerk, "Hi, do you have deodorant for, well, your bottom?" The clerk blinked. Bottom deodorant?" "Yes," the woman said proudly. "I've been buying it here for months." Slightly confused, the clerk smiled politely. "Let me grab the pharmacist real quick." The pharmacist came out and asked, "Can you describe the product?" The woman nodded. "It's in a little tube. You twist the bottom and it goes up. You apply it to the bottom, just like it says on the label." Still puzzled, the pharmacist asked, "Do you have the container with you?" "Of course," she said, digging into her purse and handing it over. The pharmacist turned it over, read the label, and tried not to laugh. "Ma'am, this is a regular stick of underarm deodorant." The woman snatched it back, read the label aloud, and said with a shrug, "See, it says right here, to apply, push up, bottom." A guy is driving when suddenly his car runs out of gas. Just then a bee buzzes in through the window. "Hey, what's going on?" asks the bee. "Out of gas," the guy replies. The bee says, "Hang tight," and zooms off. A few minutes later, the guy sees a whole swarm of bees fly over and dive right into his gas tank. After a little while, the bees fly away. "Go ahead, give it a try," says the bee. The guy turns the key, and the car starts perfectly. "Wow! What did you put in my tank?" he asks. The bee grins and says, "BP." A wild Karen stormed into the coffee shop, snatched her fancy order, took a sip, and froze like she'd just discovered betrayal in a cup. "Excuse me," she shouted. "This coffee is stale. I demand a fresh one, now!" The manager, a caffeine warrior on his 8th shift this week, replied, "No problem, ma'am. I'll make it myself." 5 minutes later, he returns with a fresh cup, crafted with love, stress, and mild trauma. Karen sips, instantly spits. "This tastes like dirt!" she screams. Without blinking, the manager smiles and says, "It should. It was ground 5 minutes ago." Even the coffee beans were giggling.